Ikea yoxatini takat Johan wal huj was kanach to the arty ya talk show ya wasashtaqa khatati ide kedena ya kaya ko awal singich to yish to one qanins qanakhe yiti kaya haji na teach Jan ko a wujin ye jitune tin yigachtit laq Techniek eet chayach ach one qanins tlal qajit ukidch ye awa qa yat atsich ach qakatla kwallich eet one qanins we douche iklut kalshatch Hel wasa qoti qo a Johan wujin aya ohan tlech aya ye qaqwasti ye awa e khaji ja Dusa du tuasuguk eka awashkugu awalingit wujinaya yeka kwati uhanaya hayukatangidat yantunak ka achtuyik eadat Yakhana we sandikak yukatangadat yechakachtune shukwa ayata wal tek sandikak shuahi Wetatsu adat yechitune Yewe which it ʼatánk to us a go itreach was a achi. Aka away. Just the katuhan, tleka nach. Aka hastu ʼatangi. Was kehi nak. Was kushtako ish, kakwan ish. Keyishi. Kakatlat. Was chakuta hastu ʼatangi ach to us a go to a two. Ja, je dat ga we shukwa a ʼatánk yechi kashuk it khoha.
Gunalchish gusuwe atlain aku ka ʼaak ta ge.
Okay. Ilchish satuk.
Ta ta kunach yakeyi
Okay. Ilchish shanaqait.
We anaski on plate ka Kayaaní king salmon away Gwash yeah yeah on Kayaaní Slinget you do a ʼáak. Maybe it's better to call king salmon.
Okay. Ilchish. Yidilitsin.
wait shayadehini wait Daislin hini masa ayach chaka spawn. I'm trying to say that there's not very many coming up this way anymore.
Okay, cheese. We jineiyí has to kahaku has to jiwanak. The yan the lucht. Gwellian the lucht just yeah. Hechasaka. Elias.
Ga achtus.
Okay. Cheatwu.
Kunach Ligiei hot wait.
Cheesh. Okay. Sky do.
Nes Kutan Achwasatim.
Okay. Wutsaka.
Hindi kaudwak ʼáak yisk.
Oh. Okay. Juan Lane.
Konachish, Yikei Yahaye wait Konach Yike we stuck in Dak un Tauk Heck no fishing heck we Chinook Konachish
Oh.
Edian
Oh, okay. Yikagu.
Aye Utrik to Asigu Kanach.
Cheesh. Schacht lechach. Tesla sa yachud lach koa. Ishan chat. Okay. Go. Hae. Teslian mune. Well, that ruins that for me. Okay. I guess we'll just read them. It's not ready. Who wants to read it?
Kunach X'éig yat.
Sheesh.
People really boil king salmon that's what I'm thinking.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Jacuzzi.
Any questions about it from anyone?
That dultóow, that is boil.
Yeah. So you let's see. Let's go find that.
So
one,
then
actually.
ʼáak is a special kind of boil, huh? With seal oil.
Yes. So ʼáak is let's go there since it's there. Since I forgot to set up the translation thing. If we go look at boil, down. And so we get a number of different things. So here is just to boil water, right? And you see here, ʼáak. So what does that tell you about that verb?
L classifier.
Tells you that there's an L classifier. And this tells you something else too.
The short vowel in the stem.
Yes, well, yeah. So it's a command form. And so there's two things. Well, one, we could see there's no ga or ka or na. So that tells us it's a zero conjugation verb. Zero conjugation verbs in the command are short and high. And then then we got ʼáak. So there's a habitual, right? So we also could have the habitual. ʼáak, it boils every time. And then you can also have ʼáak before it was, or yeah, ʼáak, there it is. ʼáak, before it was boiling. Then we have shuwatán. This is where ʼatánk comes from. So you could have hot shuwatán. They boiled the fish. And then you've got chas ʼatánk. That means people regularly boil humpy salmon, but this is to boil fish, and this is a specific way of boiling fish as well. For me, this verb, if you're going to ʼáak, you're making ʼatánk. And so ʼatánk is a specific way to boil fish and to make fish. So then you've got satá, which is, this is the verb that's being used in this example, right? Which is interesting. So satá. So again, this tells you most of the cooking verbs, I think they're all zeros, I think. So, because they all have a definitive ending, right? So this tells you satá. Again, short and high, 0. So that's, so then you could say ausatá. And that should be long and high, right? To say they did it. Kayaaní, they didn't boil it. So this is especially boiling meat. And this is the one where if you do it regularly, so you could say dlí, dultóow. People regularly boil meat. And that's where you get teja as another name for a type of soup, which is technically boiled meat. And then you can also boil berries.
Okay. Renee,
Oh.
that chus before, is that chus and then it's the negative perfective habitual and a suffix? Is that how it works? Yeah.
Yep. And so you have ch, the ʼtléil contracts to the single letter L, and then you're going to add it's usually an I, but it could be a U.
Sure, but it's the negative perfective habitual is what you're working with.
Yes.
Okay.
But the negative habitual is the same as the habitual. You just put ʼtléil in front of it. So ʼáak would be it's always boiling.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or they always boil it.
Yeah, sure. Although sometimes you'll put a urialis like that natich, eh? Would you say unatich?
So you got yenatich, kayaaní, and then I don't think you'd have unatich.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought if it's a zero. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yes,
but,
yes. If it's a zero conjugation, like this one, the urialis is in there. But yenatich is na conjugation, which is why you have na in that natich. Oh, same thing. You say natich, always sleeping. Kayaaní, haven't slept yet. Kayaaní, before they slept.
I remember you telling us how to say before I was born. So
how do you say it?
I'm trying to think. No.
Almost there.
Shuwatán ʼáak.
Well, that would be the first one born, or that's what it sounds like to me. So, yeah, getting into just sort of reviewing this one. So you have, in this case, you're going to have, let's see, let me go grab the theme so we could look at it. So to be born, So this is an interesting verb, I think. So you have this. So would write this D plus S T. Don't need the tilde. So here's to be born, right? Or to exist. So this has this, right? But there is also this one. And this one is, so you could be born in two different ways in Tlingit, which is really interesting. And also you can exist or you can live. So there is an object. This is not every verb is like this, that's for sure, where you have two different versions that have a very similar meaning. The only difference is one uses an object, one uses a subject. And so you could say chat khuchtati, or you could say chat khutzati. So that is I was born. Right? But then being born happened to me. Because you could also say khuchtati, and that is also I was born, but it's like I came into the world. I did it. But and you'll see different ones. You'll see them used in different ways. I started noticing this. I didn't think this verb was particularly documented as working in this way, because you could also say khat khutzati, I exist. And you could say khuchtati, which I would say is I'm living. Like I'm living my life. Right? Because there's a command form for this. Like if you look into the verb dictionary and start digging through, you'll find it. Because you could tell someone ayach haqisti, live correctly. Like you could command them to do that. Like especially if they're like your nephew or your kids or something. You could say this. This is the one that when George told me how to say it. So you could say, one is you could say, so you'd say, oh wait, hold on. Now I gotta get the, so this would be to live, right? They are every time, I guess that's how you'd say it, right? Kukas teach. So then kukas teach would be I guess I'm always existing or living. I don't know. Because there's an active one, right? And like some of these you could put it together that way, but I don't know. I guess you could say if you're probably getting close to bragging, but if you said Gedain kukas teach, I always live a good life, right? Maybe you'll just say Gedain kukas teach, they're always living a good life. Right, you could say that about a third person. That works pretty well. But then if you had the negative version, so it wouldn't change. They haven't been born yet. And then qa plus kha equals qa. Kesh teach. I haven't been born yet. Again, you could put this together, but there wouldn't be a way to use this. I don't know. You're just like a little unborn, your little fetus talking. But you can, to get to here, put ch in front of it, which contracts this to the letter L. Put a suffix on the end, which converts this to a J. Before I was born. But this is all about like pattern building, right? So if you can build this, you could build the other ones. But this is, I don't think this verb is documented in terms of having the subject there. Because when I asked Kayaaní how to say it, he said, and I could hear the k in there. So I was like, oh, that's the subject one. So before I came into this world, I was the active, but you know, there might be a male perspective too, because I'm sure women would be like, no, the mothers, you were born. You didn't come in this world. So but I leave that to your discretion.
Goodness, geez.
But you could, and so you could also, I'm sure, you could probably say, before they were living a good life, right? So you might talk about the times when they were making bad decisions or whatever. Back to the fists. Dultóow. So this is what you have, is you have a repetitive imperfective. So it's getting that underlined X, which is changing the ah to an A. You want to read this one?
Chnachawe yaki we ta a.
Sheesh. King Salmon is very good.
A deslint ʼáak August ya chana ene.
Sheesh. Any questions about that one?
Why is there the T on Daysleen?
Yes, that's a good question. So that T means to arrive. So like there's a number of things. We could take a sentence like this and sort of, since we're not translating it, but we can use it to just sort of do a few different kind of exercises to show us some things. So one is, so if we're not worried about the August part, we'll take that off, right? So if we got Daysleen ʼáak. What if I went, so one is, this is, it's a habitual, right? So what if I didn't want a habitual, I just wanted to say, what about a perfective? What would the perfective be for this? Anybody know?
How about ʼáak?
That's pretty good, but like, okay. So if we said, we de wugut, right? That would be different than, or let's say, let's go back to, let's keep Tesla in there. So if we said, Daysleen de wugut, but if we had this, it would be different, right? That letter T is going to trigger a change. What would that change be and why? Anybody know?
They arrived.
Yeah, so it's arrived, so it's a little bit different.
Zero?
What's that?
Is it going to go zero?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's ʼáak.
Yeah, so this would be ʼáak, and this would be ʼáak. Right? So here, what the letter T is doing, because if we said ta, and what we have is king salmon always arrive at Teslin. King salmon have arrived at Teslin. And then you can also say, now this, the letter T, as far as a motion verb, triggers the zero conjugation. Because remember, motion verbs change their conjugation, right? Coming back to it being a complicated language, yes. So this day, and so you would also say it's swimming towards, and you could also say it's swimming from, and you could also say it's swimming along. Those are all n conjugation. So that means you would have ʼáak, right? As opposed to, or you'd probably have ʼáak, should be short, sorry. But here, the letter T says to arrive is zero conjugation motion. That's reflected right here. Now we have ʼáak, and zero is the only one in the habitual that gets the irialis. So, jedna teach, ke utich, right? So that's, we have that T verb, right? So jedna teach, it's always that way. Ke is a zero conjugation, and so you'd have utich. It always gets out of control. Okay. But then if we have this ʼáak, now we could do some of this stuff. So we could say, if we want to just keep sort of learning how to play around with the language, so this would be the king salmon always come to Teslin. They arrive at Teslin. But if we wanted to say, de slínt ʼáak, what does that mean? How does that change it, right?
Would that be they never arrive? King
That's what
salmon
you-
never arrive in Tesla?
That's what you would think, but the negative is different.
Is that they haven't arrived yet?
Yes, and that's just how habituals work. If you put clash in front of it, it's always hasn't happened yet, hasn't become that way yet. So then you'd say the king salmon haven't arrived yet into Teslin. Right, but that works, right? So you could say, let's go fishing, and then you might say, de slínt ʼáak. And then you could just do the same thing that we just did. De slínt ʼáak. What do we got now?
Before the salmon arrived in Teslin.
And then as far as like how does this stuff work logically? Like we saw this example up here. They always arrive when it becomes August, right? When it is becoming August, that's what we have. Then you could say they haven't arrived yet. And that could work, like just as a standalone sentence. Or you could just say in July, right? Or, and then here, before the king salmon arrive in Teslin, people start working on their nets. Or something like that, just in terms of like how you use this stuff sort of structurally. Good question. Kayaaní, it's becoming August. So what about this one? August Kayaaní. Let's see. So this
Kuna.
is
I was wondering, for the reverse of that, like if I was to say last August, I'm always curious on how to say like last. I know last night is nisdot, but I don't know if that translates to other things.
Yeah, I usually hear it as this. But there's multiple ways to get there. So Kaya is sort of the other. So you could say ʼáak, the other year. And so like let's say if we let's just pick Dísi, right? So Dísi is September, right? So let's say we're saying last September. So there's a couple ways I think you could get there. One is you could say Dísi, if it doesn't matter what the year was, and you're just talking about something that happened in the fall. If the time doesn't really matter, you could say Dísi. But otherwise, like we could say, you could say Kaya, Dísi. But I think also you could say Guash. Now I have to count. We're in what, the 4th month? Guash Dachadushu. This shuwatán. This yeti away. So you could do something like that. Maybe 7 months have passed. It was September. Right? So that's a little bit more of a decided walkthrough. So this is when, you know, it depends, like, for Tlingit, like, days and months and time isn't always particularly important. It's like a while ago, the other, you know, last year or whatever. But you can do, I've heard ʼáak, the other year, and then you could say ʼítá, which would be the coming one, right? So you could say ʼítá, this coming winter. Kayaaní. Which, you know, time references are always really interesting to me in Tlingit because it's not a time-driven language. So I think our English brains go a little crazy with some of this stuff. Like, no, how do you say, like, you know, last winter, you know? But I think you can, but ʼáak means the other winter. And then Kaya is like on the other side of something, or it's to the side of it, kind of. Because you could also, it's always rabbit holes. So you could say, here's something that's wild. Some of you might have heard this. What is that? I got this at a language camp in Carcross, I think.
Let me go way over there.
That was, yeah, so let me go over there. But then you like way over there would be like Uday or Diyanach to the other side. Tlaya is not that far. But if you want to say, let me go over there, you would say Tlaya de Nakagut. Is that right? Let me check my work while you folks are thinking of what this could mean. It's not let me go over there though. And these are, so coming back, before we recorded, we talked about like Tlingit being a little bit difficult and how it takes a long time to learn the language. This was something interesting because I asked how to say it, and I just thought, I never would have thought of that. Nkagut, okay. Kayaaní. That's what I had to do. Kayaaní nkagut.
Is it like go sit over there? Or
That is pretty close. That's very,
Yeah.
very close. It is sit, and it is over there.
Ah.
But you would say, if I wanted to say, go sit over there, and
oh, like sit there.
Sit still.
that's getting close. But sit still would be
Yay.
but it depends. Okay, I think here's my theory: is it could be this, and it could be this, and there is a difference here. You got to really think about it, right? It comes down to these conjugation classes and what they kind of mean. This stuff these are fun, like little mind benders. Nanu and qannu. Why would there be two different ways? But what is the qa telling you, right? It's a type of motion.
Down.
Down.
Down, right? So you wouldn't have to go down if you are what?
Be down. If you're already down.
Yes, if you're already sitting. So this Kayaaní nanu. Like you're sitting and it's like move over a seat. That's what I asked how someone to say. Move over a chair. Like, and they said Kayaaní nanu. And so you get this as well with I think this is how you say it. Kinanu. There's another one. Okay, like these are like little subtle shades, little differences. So what might Kayaaní be? This for the Tlingit, this is especially for the Tlingit medium school that has middle school students and high school students.
Sit up
Sit up.
for those slouchy students.
Yes, no slouching. Sit up. Yes, there is, looking in the chat with Saqa, this is one that I think is falling out of use. So you do, and George was the only one that I knew of who would use this. So we were doing some translation work, and we said something like 4 people, or like these sea otters or something, swam down to get it. So if they swam down, you would say Yinde ʼáak. One person swam down. But you should have, or one thing, Yinde. And some people would say ʼáak. But I think you should have cow dua ʼáak. Which is, so the weird things about motion verbs is that, one, they can change their conjugation class depending on, usually attached to the suffix, right? Whatever the suffix is, or if you've got nate or something like that. But then they also have plural forms. And sometimes that plural is it's like just a different root. So you could have wugut and hasbu'at. But then you have wushich. What about they ran? This one gets me all the time.
Is that shuwaguk?
Yes, it's a shuwaguk. Right, so that's the plural form of run. And so some of this stuff, like you just have to remember, like some of them have odd combinations, right? Is it going to switch is it just a different root, or is the whole thing changing? Right, so like wunuk and then haswuqin for sitting down, right? So some of them, you just change the root, but for some of them, you do something kind of weird like this, like, so you'd have wujikain, right? Or let's say at wujikain. They jumped around. You have at, has, cow, duwa, gain. So in that case, you're adding ka. You've got a frozen du in there. Okay, whatever. I surrendered Tlingit. And then also the classifier changes group. So like when it comes to motion verbs, as you learn more motion verbs, you just have to remember this stuff. Because like coming back to a question we had earlier about migration, you'd have wudeqin, and then has, cow, the each. Right? So sometimes you just get a totally different form when you pluralize it. And for this one, to swim underwater, most speakers are just saying haswukak. And some of them are even rejecting kautuwukak. But we know that they used to say that. And so some of this stuff, like as learners and as like the Tlingit language community, we've always got these decisions to make about like, what do we hold on to? And some of it, like, I'll know what someone's saying if they said haswukak. And then there's even some speakers, they don't want us to put haskautuwukak. But then like working with, so I'm so thankful the time I spent with George and Marge, because like they would just say things and they'd be like, no, it has to go that way. And what's wild is like all that stuff was just in their mind. Like even like you could stack all these dictionaries up and it just doesn't compare to what they had. And so that's why I like doing this work so much, because like I could share the things that they shared with me, and then we can also like put these puzzles together ourselves, and we'll never run out of stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe there's a day when we've got advanced Tlingit and we've put in our 10,000 hours by then. But until that time, like, I don't know, we just have to keep stacking it up, I guess. Anyways, Cheesh, how are you, hon?
Sheesh.
Cheese.
Goodness, cheese.
Cheese.
Sheesh.
You did a great job Saturday.
Ah.
Boy, trying to keep people to 5 minutes is a monumental challenge.
Oh yeah.
Goodness, cheese.
Renee, you should let them talk as long as they'd like in Tlingit. But
there you
like
go.
Ka Kayaaní, Cajun minutes.
Yeah, way. Switch to
Think
English,
it,
got 2 minutes. Tlingit time unlimited.
Ah,
Goodness,
Jagan.
cheese.
Okay, cheese.